Well, hello everybody.
Wait.
Okay.
So Amal Handar is in charge of our educational program here and has been working with children here since the beginning of the year, basically. And we had a number of activities. Amal is also doing a master program in biotechnology with us at Bethlehem University, um, and is one of the great staff members that we have. We have also. She does a number of things besides education, including just past 2 or 3 days. They've been doing taxidermy, even fixing a hyena, making it visible for putting it in our museum. All right, Amal, it's
Lots of
all yours.
nice
So
pictures.
go ahead and put on PowerPoint and full screen and
Okay.
proceed.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us today. First of all, I want to thank Ms. Elena Probst, who is with us today. All of these events and activities have been free of charge for the children because of Ms. Elena's generous donations. We do activities almost once a week, every week, on Fridays. And I have kind of grouped my activities in groups depending on what the activity was. And I put together a few photos to show you. And we started in the beginning of the year, January 2021. So just about, just 8 months ago. So we've done a lot of botanical garden activities, and all my activities have been educational in a way or another. I've seen lots of fun activities that I really wanted to do with my kids, but I decided not to do them if I see that they don't have an educational aspect. So I try to make all these events fun and at the same time educational. So these are the events that we have done in the botanical garden, in our garden outside. The very, very first event that I did was a Find It, Stick It. So I made a worksheet for them, and I put different, I should have brought a sample. I put different things from our botanical garden, and then we had like an upside down tape on the side, and they had to go and hunt for these things in our garden and stick a leaf or something. I'll show you an example in just a moment. We also just use magnifying glasses in our garden, looking for stuff under rocks, looking at plants. And we also, after spring, our pathways were full with, lots of grass, lots of flowers, lots of nice stuff, but we eventually had to mow the paths. So I decided before we mowed the paths to do a flower bracelet. So we got some duct tape and we put it upside down on our wrist. And we went in the paths, only in the paths, and we collected different things and we taped them on our bracelet. It was very important to teach the kids that, we don't usually pick flowers or anything from the environment or we try our best not to ruin our botanical garden, but since we're gonna mow the paths, we pick them. We also do scavenger hunts, and we did a leaf identification hunt. So I have some photos. So this first image on the left, this is the Find It, Stick It scavenger hunt. It's double-sided. It goes on both sides. So for example, here I had a fennel. So I write the name in English, I write the name in Arabic, fennel and shomar. And then I have smell and taste. So we're teaching them to also use their senses. In these activities, we had Humed, which is, in English, it's Dr. Shiani Humed, wood sorrel. It's something that's sour, and we pick and they have a bite at it, and the kids enjoyed this a lot because most kids did not know about this. So this was a fun event. We went outside, we picked them, we put them in little baskets, and then we went inside and we stuck them with the tape. And then this one over here was the leaf identification hunt. I had for them the different types of leaves and their different shapes, and we went out in the garden and we looked for different shapes of leaves, and then we also stuck them on here. We also, this is the flower bracelet that I was talking about, and these are our pathways. They ended up looking like this. They even have some rosemary on here from these bushes back here. This is the magnifying glasses. We use them to look at roots. We use them to look at many different things. We also did events. We did one activity with recycling and upcycling, and that was actually we did more. I forgot. I included something else in the animals, but it's also recycling and upcycling. So for this, we did a hydroponics bottle self-watering planter. The name is really long, but basically we take a bottle, we cut it in half, and then we poke a hole in the cap, and then we put a wick or a piece of cloth or something, and it basically self-waters itself through the wick. And we planted different things in these bottles, and this taught the children to recycle, to garden, plant things, and take care of their plants, because they took all these with them. Anything we make together, the kids take with them home. We also did activities with animals, and this one, the bird feeders and the ladybug shelters, this also falls under recycling and upcycling, because we used toilet paper rolls, just the empty roll. We also did an animal selfie scavenger hunt, and we made birds' nests together. So this is the bird feeders. We took the toilet paper roll. We put some peanut butter on it, and then we rolled it in nuts and bird food, nuts and seeds and stuff. And this is a picture of a girl holding it and enjoying it. This is our animal selfie scavenger hunt. So usually with my activities, I have 5 students, 5 kids with every supervisor. This was my team. I have a lot of volunteers that come help me every week. But this was my team. This is the turtle that we found, and we took a selfie scavenger hunt with it. And this girl in the back is holding a worksheet. And usually for my events, I try most of the times to make a worksheet for them, to make it as educational as possible. And this is a picture of a girl with a turkey egg, and no, sorry, not turkey, ta'us, peacock egg. And then this is a crushed ladybug. This is the bird's nest that we did. The kids enjoyed this event way more than I expected. We basically collected, we collected dried grass. We collected pine needles, dried pine needle leaves. We looked for bird feathers. We have lots of bird feathers underneath our trees, and we also went inside the aviary. So this is our aviary. We went inside the aviary and we collected feathers, and the kids also took these home with them. We also did some scientific events and activities. One time, due to this was either a lockdown because of COVID or snow or something. We had to do something online, and Ilyas, another team member with us, gave us an online workshop on entomology, which is the study of insects. صح دكتور? And then we also did we had a bunch of microscope slides that we looked at under the microscope. And this included both animals and plants and did a bunch of different things. And we also went up to the university. We have a cytogenetics laboratory where we study the chromosomes of humans, and human chromosomes. It's a clinical laboratory. I took the kids there. Well, actually, for this one, I chose older kids this time. They were teenagers, I think. I think these kids were teenagers. We took them up there to the cytogenetics lab, and we taught them about human chromosomes. So this is at the cytogenetics lab. This is also at the cytogenetics lab. This is Reem, another team member that works with us. She works in the cytogenetics lab. And then this is the microscope world. Here is the microscope. And here is one of the kids. His name is Yaqub. And he is holding the pointer and pointing at this. I think this was a mosquito. I think this is a mosquito. So we're looking at different things under the microscope. We also did activities in the kitchen involving food and baking and cooking and stuff. So we, in our garden, we have za'atar, thyme. So we took the kids down to the garden. We taught them, what thyme is, what we use it for, how to pick it, where to pick. And we picked them and we took them indoors, and we separated the leaves from the stems, and we made ground thyme, za'atar, and we also ate some za'atar manakish. And we also had another event, which was just making sausage rolls and pizza bites and just baking in general. And this is our thyme in the garden. All of this is thyme, and the kids collected them. And then we went indoors, and then we separated the thyme leaves from the stems. And this is our other activity. And we baked together. We also did other indoor activities, and these were more for days where it was rainy outdoors or really cold, or days where we had to be indoors, but we still did some fun stuff. We have 2 exhibits here at the museum. At the institute, we have a natural history exhibit, and we also have an ethnography exhibit. And we took the kids on tours in both of these exhibits. And then we also did lavender, fennel, and rosemary Play-Doh. And all these were picked from our garden. And for this event, on the same day, I actually held 2 different events. The first one in the morning was for kids ages 3 to 6. And then I held another one in the afternoon for kids ages 6 to 12. The young kids enjoyed the 3 to 6-year-olds. I enjoyed them, and they enjoyed the event, so it was nice to have them. And then we just, one other time, we had just a popcorn movie day. So this is our natural history exhibit. This is the hyena. These are some kids enjoying the hyena. This is our ethnography exhibit. And then this is also the natural history exhibit with some butterflies. And this is the Play-Doh day, and these are the 3 to 6-year-old kids. We made Play-Doh together, and then we also had different shapes that they had to make using the Play-Doh. And this was our movie day. We brought them a popcorn machine, and we watched Ice Age. And yeah, these are all our events so far. We are continuously thinking of new events and new activities to do with the kids. And if anybody
if anybody has a quick question for Amal, because she has to leave, unfortunately. It's already 4:15. So, but basically, then we will continue our discussion and think strategically of where we are going with our children education programs. So, if anybody has a quick question for Emma, please ask her now before she leaves. If not, Emma, you can go ahead and go, and we will continue.
I just want to say thank you. My auntie was, all of her life, was an illustrator and photographer for the Audubon Society and published something called The Curious Naturalist. And she would have loved this. You're carrying on some amazing work. Thank you.
I sometimes feel like I enjoy it more than the kids.
Good.
I really
That's a
like
good sign.
spending some time with them. It's refreshing. The Curious Naturalist, was it?
Naturalist, yes. I don't think you'll find a copy anywhere, but it was in the 60s and 70s. And she did the same thing you're doing with kids, getting their hands all muddy, getting them up to their neck in the swamp.
Dominique, you have your hand up?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry, I have a little problem of informatic, but I speak very bad English. But I think there is a association which is called Friends of the Earth. Perhaps you know, it's a NGO. But I think it's very important to present what you do, because otherwise they think always Palestinian like the media and the mass media present, and so perhaps it will be interesting to present your job to preserve the nature with the kids, because I think it's a little bit like this. It's Friends of the Earth. They have sections in the different countries and they are against war normally. But yes, it's very nice what you do. So thank you, Amal.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for joining, and I'm sorry I have to leave early. Have a good day, and thank you again, Ms. Elena.
Thanks, Amal.
Say something. Okay, so everybody, just for the record, these future conversations were going to not just reflect on what we have done in the past, but think strategically where we are going on different areas. Like in this case, obviously, we're discussing children education. What is the goal and the strategy for children education, which leads us to what we all want, which is a sustainable planet, sustainable communities. So we need kind of a discussion of this, and I would love to hear your views on this. And as I said, we are recording this so that other people who couldn't be here also benefit from it. And certainly Amal will see the rest of the recording, so she will get some more ideas for more actions or more events that result in our having a sustainable planet. So I just wanted to say this in terms of, how we introduce a discussion, but feel free to discuss as you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wondering how you talk about the climate change and global realities of what's happening, especially in the Middle East or the Asian East, West, however you refer to your area. Is that too much for children, or do you have a way of doing that?
I'm not sure I got the question well. I mean, in terms of what we plan here.
Yeah. I'd like to know if you're able to introduce this dangerous reality that we're hearing about at the children's level.
Yeah. No, I mean, what we are trying, children are by nature innovative and problem solvers. And what we want is, when Amal, for example, is showing them the complexity of building a bird's nest, that is problem solving, if you want, and realizing critical thinking. And this reflects on the political reality, but it's not intentional on our part to deal with the difficult situation as such. Our goal is to create a safe environment for critical thinking, for their human development, mental development, capacity development. By nature, this has political ramifications. I'll give you an example. When Amal was talking about caring for the animals, picking an animal, looking at it, feeding it, etc., peacock egg or something like that, this actually brings issues of compassion into play, how people respect other living things. And so it becomes ingrained for compassion. And this is in a way also peacemaking, if you want, because once you have compassion for other human beings, it's part of peacemaking. The reality that's out there, even though most parents try to isolate their children from the horrible realities that we live in, children are not stupid. They do realize that there's problems here and whatever, and we don't have to teach them about the problems. Like somebody told me, oh, you teach your children to hate Israelis. I said, no, I don't have to teach them anything. They see the reality right in front of their face every day. So we don't teach them this. The reality is what they see. Now, what we do teach them is, if we try to teach them anything, and I prefer we don't actually try to teach them anything. I prefer we create an environment in which they learn on their own, in which they explore, in which they have creative thinking, etc. What is this creative thinking about? It's about problem solving, including problems in their environment. So when they grow up, they'll be peacemakers, they'll be activists, they'll be justice advocates, all of these things. That comes naturally, not via us lecturing them about it, but via the natural unfolding of the human capacity.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Any other comments? I see Jesse is typing something in the chat room.
Yes, this is Jessie, and I want to follow up on Pauline's comment, and I just made aware of this YouTube video about the plastic waste that this society, the whole world generate, and it is I think it's made from the consortium called the Break Free from Plastic, and I encourage everybody watch this video, and they have a free preview for this month till end of September. And I've as I was watching it, and also we at the Institute, try to encourage everybody in the Institute. We try to avoid, avoid any plastic waste from the source. I think we need to cut the waste first, and even only when it's not avoidable, then you may go to the reuse and then recycle, because not every place is available for recycling. But the most important is to cut waste at the source. And I really like to, start from our institute, and eventually, from our education to the children. and it involves changing of our consumption habits and all the quite important and quite a drastic change of what our consumption behavior here. And it's a tall order, but I think I really want to encourage people here, although we do have very limited resources, so we need to think about brainstorming from some simple concept and introduction to such a video to the children, and emphasize at every Friday education activities, or at every activities that we carry out at the institute. I think this is what I'm hoping that we can embark on this. We are already, some of us are at the institute already doing this, not using one use plastic. But this is not enough. I need, other people telling your family, friends, and to do the same. And we experience difficulties, but I think we just have to be, have a thick skin and keep telling people. And eventually, we will have this momentum. But if you go watch this video and then go visit the website of the Break Free from Plastic, they have a lot of resources, which I would also check into, and so how we can do this at a school, or start from a school, or start from a university to begin with. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dominique, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry with the informatical problem I have. But I think the problem is that in Palestine there is also apartheid, and so it's not simple to put our ideas on the Palestinian people. I think that which is interesting, it's what the Palestinian people made, and that we continue to stop the Israeli propaganda, because they say always that they are for the environment. They are always in the top of which is modern, and so the problem that it's we have to sustain the Palestinian initiatives that they have the courage to do, but also we have here in our countries to make our best to stop all this pollution and so on, but also to stop the apartheid regime in Palestine. Otherwise, Israel is always the champion, is the startup of the solutions, and it's worse and worse. And so I think, for example, I know that, for example, at a lot of places in Palestine, the people try to protect the nature because they live there, and I don't. And so, what can we do to help to stop the apartheid regime, which is destroying all the Palestinian nature, and all the Palestinians try to do to protect the nature and the climate also, because otherwise Israel is making a lot of false solutions. So I hope that we will discuss about it. Otherwise, with the tanks and all the things, Israel come and put all the things out in a cemetery. So I'm a little bit angry about it. because all the times I see the Palestinian construct and Israeli power demolish. It's the reality. What can we do here to protect the Palestinians, but also to stop Israeli power apartheid, which is acting against the nature and the Palestinian and the women who make the kitchen and the zatar, and also. Sorry for my bad English.
It's great, Dominique. I think we understand you perfectly, and I think you're right. And I believe what we need to do, or what perhaps you need to do, is put pressure in your own country. This is the only way to go. You know, it's not easy. It's easy to say, not easy to do, but this is what needs to be done.
Thanks.
I think, you know, what the ideas that Amal was showing and of what we are doing is in a way a form of resistance, because what does the colonizers want? They want us to be desperate. They want us to be to give up basically and leave the country. They don't want people here. By working with our children, by engaging with our children, we are basically engaged in a form of resistance. And this is a positive form of resistance. It's a form of resistance that's dependent on building an alternative of caring, as I mentioned, compassion, critical thinking, developing minds. After all, you know, when you develop the mind of even one child, you're developing a future resistance person. I am tempted to compare, for example, what the Freedom Theater in Jenin did. The Freedom Theater in Jenin, which was started by Arna Merchamis, an Israeli woman who's married to a Palestinian, and then was continued with her son, Giuliano Merchamis, that worked with children in the camp. And one of those children, Zakaria Zubeidi, was only 8 or 9 years old when his mother actually donated part of the home for this startup theater. And then, you know, basically Zakaria was raised with Giuliano and Arna as foster brother and mother, if you want, and learned about resistance, learned about the importance of resistance, and he became the most wanted Palestinian, if you want. He just escaped from an Israeli prison, was recaptured, but that's detail. I think, you know, this is very important, and I think, you know, when you develop activities for children, you are developing future resistors, future leaders, future visionaries, future creative thinkers. This is what you are doing, and I think that's where the intersection between the two things come into play. Anybody else has comments? And here's Noga. Noga just joined us from Uganda. She's an Israeli who lives in Uganda, working with refugees. So welcome. We have a recording of this, so I'll show it to you. But you're welcome to join the conversation. We're just talking about the importance of working for children, with children in the future, for development of future of justice, of human rights, equality, things like that. And there's Mario also. So there are some people who came late, but as I said, there's a recording which we can show. But we're basically very informal, chatting about future directions using, designing activities for children, using innovation and children activities as forms of developing minds and spirits, strengthening spirits under difficult circumstances like this. Amal unfortunately had to leave, but she presented the PowerPoint with the pictures of our activities organized under categories of activities like food, working with animals, working with nature, and so on. Go ahead, anybody else? There's Kurt and Mokesh raised their hands. Kurt, you want to? Go ahead and unmute if you want. Kurt Dimes.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm very interested in Ms. Kaufman's question regarding the earliest appropriate age to begin education about the climate crisis for children. And I wondered if anyone else is interested in that or has a question or something to offer.
This is a very timely question, Kurt, because we have a program developed with the city of Geneva and a group called Zoe Environment Network, which did some environmental educational programs in Africa about climate change. And they developed modules with us. We provided them with the material so that the modules are more culturally sensitive to Palestine, basically relate to our own circumstances here in Palestine. And they used our data and our models and our ideas to develop these cartoonish kind of posters and brochures for children. And then afterwards, they thought, well, people don't like to look at stable images. So they decided to make them actually literally like moving cartoons, like Disney World, etc. And Zoe is ZOI, if you want, ZOI Environment Network. But if you go on our website, PalestineNature.org, you can find these posters, which are now being animated. Meaning that they're made like with actually moving people and objects and animals, etc. And I think this will be very useful even for very, very young children, like 5, 6, 7 years old. But this is all a field, as you point out, I think, as you understand, is still kind of new, and very few research studies have really developed the best educational modules for children of different ages for different things. We are actually, even what Amal showed, most of what we do is kind of trial and error, trying different things, seeing what works. Now, when you mention climate change, of course, everything relates to climate change. Recycling, for example, that Amal showed the children about recycling a plastic bottle to make a mini hydroponic system to grow something, a plant. This is related to climate change. Everything we do environmentally is related to climate change. So reducing waste, stuff like that, appreciating nature. When the kids go out just to appreciate nature, that's also related to climate change, because you're less likely to damage the environment if you appreciate it. So everything we do is related in some fashion to climate change. We're not going specifically to educate them about climate change. We're educating them about environmental impact of humans, etc. This is our thought process here. But as I said, it's in the making, and it's a trial and error, and we are learning as we go, and it's a new field, really. That people are now, I'm seeing more and more literature about pedagogy of education about climate change, etc. So if any of you have any other ideas, would love to hear more ideas from this. Does anybody have any input on this issue before we go on to Mokesh? Okay, Mokesh, go ahead. Am I saying your name right?
No, he's saying all right, but I thought Pauline had a hand up.
Oh, go ahead. It was nothing.
Can't be nothing. Hi, everybody. I'm Mukesh from South Africa. Salam, salam. Is that your wife behind you, Prof?
No, this
Hello.
is Suhas.
Okay. No, I'm very happy and impressed with what Amal presented on the children, and I think it gives a lot of us hope. And I wish you all the luck with and all the best wishes with the project with the children. I think it really helps us to see there's hope in this world. But thank you, Prof. And yeah, okay. My connection is not too good, so that's why I keep the video off.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else has any input? Pauline, you want to add something?
Well, just that I've read recently that of all the apocalyptic events that have happened in the past couple of years, climate change comes out on top. And more I'm reading that that's where we need to put our major focus for the immediate future. And it's hard not to become preachy on the subject, if you know what I mean. So I really appreciate what you're doing, Mazen, with this educational, positive approach. But it's frustrating. And I don't know how you manage to keep your focus on the positive.
Well, as I sometimes say in my talks, the activism we do here is what keeps us out of the mental institution.
Yes.
Otherwise, we go crazy.
Yeah, everywhere. It's a little bit like this.
No, Amal said something that I don't know if you heard what she said. She said something that sometimes she enjoys, many times, she enjoys what the event more than the children. So why does she enjoy the event more than the children? Because it's meaningful, because it makes meaning to her life. And I think the same for me, you know, it gives a meaning to this life. Otherwise, we are born and we die, and what's the point? Dominique, go ahead.
I'm sorry to speak all the time, but I think there will be a climate summit, like usually, one more and more and more, in Glasgow in October, and I think it's urgency to call to the youth to be a lot to be against the power which decide to continue to warm the climate. And so I think it will be nice if in Palestine there is something with the young to connect, if it's possible, to connect with other youngs to say two things. We also in Palestine, we live in Palestine, we will not to die because of the climate and because of the occupation. And so it will be nice because what I see now that there is a lot of problems now because of the capitalism system and because the lack of democracy everywhere. And so there is a conscious which is doing slowly everywhere, that we have a lot of battles to do now to preserve the life, la vie. And so now it will be nice if the Palestinian youth people can do something together like they can, to demonstrate for the climate and to connect with the young people which will demonstrate. I don't know how it will be, but I think it will be nice. Otherwise, all the battles are a little bit too much to do all the things, because we are dying. And the power are so strong and so lying, and so that we are a little bit separated. And so it will be nice to connect, like it was the case before with the altermondialist battles before 2000. I think it's the moment that we can meet again all together to save the climate, to say no, because the climate, it's also the war, and it's also all the things. So I think perhaps the Glasgow event with the COP, oui, voilà, is very important to meet young people in Palestine, which are resisting for their life, and all the yes, I'm sorry for my bad English.
No, it's okay. I mean, the question that's always on my mind, that I'm thinking about always, constantly, every morning, I think, am I really spending my time in an appropriate fashion to impact the change that we want to make in society? And not just my time, my money, my resources, my knowledge, whatever. And I don't claim that anybody knows the answer to this, including me. We're always trying to think of what's the best use of our time and our resources, our money, etc. But as long as we keep trying and we keep effort, we are still going to be better off than 99.9% of the population that just goes through life as a consumer, consumer of information, consumer of products, consumer of plastic, consumer, and just wanting a job, wanting whatever. I think this is the key to it, is to just be on that small percentage of people that are trying to develop new methods. And the idea of these conversations, which I hope we will go back to doing them every 2 weeks or so, is to discuss these modalities, methodologies, action plans. What is it that we can do that's different than what we are doing now? Okay, it's nice. Thank you, Elena, for funding what we are doing with the children part-time. Part of Emma's salary is from Elena's support. But, okay, and Amal and us are trying different approaches. And Jesse just mentioned the issue of plastics and shared that YouTube, that's really, everybody should watch this YouTube that's in the chat room about plastics. Maybe after this session you can watch it. Really, plastics are destroying our planet. What is it that we can do with our children that ensures that plastics are not used? Period. End of story. How can we do this? Where can we do this? Who can we do it with? I think there is so much that can be discussed in terms of rethinking our plans. When Kurt mentioned about climate change education to young children, is animation the best way? We will find out. We have 6 animation videos and we are testing them on children, and we'll see if animation videos work. Is Facebook an appropriate method to reach large audiences? Social media the way to reach? We need to think about all of these things. And I'm hoping these conversations, which will be recorded and available to people to think about, will not only be informative in terms of throwing ideas, but actually even thinking about how we would go about implementing them. What is it that we can do together that would implement new ideas and new concepts and new methodologies and new products to work with our children, whatever. So any ideas? Maybe the best thing is to say, I have an idea and let's do ABC. Here's Kurt and Mokish again. Go ahead, Kurt.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was really particularly interested in for anyone at the meeting, your ideas about how early climate education should begin. In my work, I come across a lot of bureaucrats who object to alarming children about about climate change, and a few who wonder if children are actually more resilient to tragedy than grown-ups. So it's a very much, for my organization, it's a very much an open question. But for people in the public, they're very protective. I think this is another form of denial. I think they're protecting themselves, and they do not want to acknowledge how bad the situation is. So they make excuses by saying we have to protect the children from the truth. For me, the question I'm trying to ask is, for all of you, how soon do you tell the worst to a child? How early do you tell the worst to a child?
I think, if I may interject here, because I was reflecting on my own childhood. My parents tried to isolate us from what's going on around us, including the occupation and the settler attacks and all of this. I can tell you they were dismal failures at that. They cannot isolate children. You cannot isolate children from the harsh reality of the world. Children are intuitively, they see what's going on around them. Right. I think the only thing you can do as an adult, as a parent, as somebody who also, like us, works with children who are not our children, is to show them what they can do, which is intuitively they have that urge to do things. They urge to act, urge to grow a plant or take care of an animal like a pet puppy or cat or something. And all we have to do is create an environment to nurture that positive aspects. Don't isolate them from the negative aspects, but don't exaggerate and make it so overwhelming that they will get them paralyzed. This is true also for adults, by the way. If you think that the US is such a powerful imperial power, or Israel is such a powerful imperial power that you can't do anything about it, then you're doomed. You will not do anything about it. So I think it's important for both children and adults to realize that they can do some things. This is mental liberation. I wrote a chapter about this, mental colonization and mental liberation. I can send you, if you're interested, this chapter. I think this is how to approach it in a positive way without trying to isolate people from all the negative that happens around them and the potential catastrophic situation that could come about if you just show them that they can actually do something, even at a small scale, that can make a difference. Others, you have any ideas? Regarding Kurt, and then regarding the point that Kurt raised, if anybody has an idea regarding that, before we go to Mokesh, who may have another point. Peter, you had your hand raised. Do you want to follow up on this particular issue?
Yes, thank you. In the last few days, I've noticed on several aggregation sites and outlets of various stripes, there's a great deal of attention on a study that shows that children are very, very upset about climate change. And most of the approaches to this seem to me, at a glance, like let's give the children therapy for their trauma, but not let's deal with climate change. And I think this is a very subtle propaganda effort. If you read Edward Bernays, who practically invented propaganda and claimed to have done so, this is the kind of strategy, of informational strategy, that's been perfected over the years, and I think it's insidious and dangerous. We were protected when I'm 73. I was protected from reality in the 40s and 50s, and it took all of my adolescence to work it out. I'm still working it out. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Mokesh.
Yeah, Prof, I was just wondering, whether it'll be possible to invite one or the other young person to join this group and to share with us, especially from your project, to hear their perspective.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. We should do that. Get the children involved and get the teenagers involved in these discussions. After all, they have the longer future than people like me, old folks.
And the challenge for us is to learn to listen to them,
Yes.
even if we may find it difficult.
Yeah, no, this is a great idea. I'll make a note to do that, to invite specifically young people. I mean, the youngest person here, perhaps, who was with us was Amal, and she had to leave, unfortunately, but she's the one who presented this. So we will make sure that she and other younger people are involved in these discussions.
Okay, no, good, thanks.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
So to Kurt's question, I was reading the other day on a website called Rethinking Schools about a first grade teacher who was telling the children the story of the seeds. She took a special potato that was, a special variety that was grown by the Native Americans in Washington State, and she was telling them the story. And she said through that, they actually want to get children to understand about food sovereignty, but they never mentioned the term. And I think climate change is the same thing. You can, as Mazen said, you can foster appreciation for nature, the understanding that we're part of, this whole environment thing. It's not something separate from us. And if children understand that intuitively, then later on they will understand that we need to do something to stop our harmful conduct. But there's no need to speak about climate change as such to a very young audience. but you do need to do other things. Thank you.
Anybody else? Dominique, go ahead. Dominique, you're muted.
Yes, sorry. The problem is the climate change. Perhaps, all right, in Belgium we've seen, and in a lot of places we've seen, but the problem behind this or over this at the bottom, it's at the top, it's the power that the power take on the life of all the planet, not only the young, but on the future of animals, plants, and humans. They have a power that is so great that they let this. So the problem is not for me only the climate change, and it's not only the climate, it's the biodiversity. And so the problem that it's this big power, which is I speak very bad English. It's the power that exists to take to let it do. And for me, it's the power that we have to change, and not to make a threat of the climate change. The climate change is there, the biodiversity, the destruction of the ice. But the problem, it's that they continue if we do nothing. And so for me, it's the problem. And they continue to make war. They continue all the life like before the COVID, they say. We must save economy. And so the problem is this. And we have to try to understand together, to make stronger together against this power. I'm sorry to speak like this, but it's the reality. It's the reality. And I don't want to make a threat of the children, but the children see, and they see also what we do.
Elena. Elena is asked to speak.
Go ahead.
Shall I say? Go ahead,
Yeah.
Elena.
Elena?
She's muted.
Yeah, Elena is muted.
Elena, you're muted. We can't hear you. Elena, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself so that we can hear you?
Can you hear me?
Now,
Yes, now, yes.
Okay, I was wrong. I put it on the. I was pressing the wrong symbol. I just wanted to answer. If you want to dismantle power, that exactly developing critical analysis in children. If you start with children, you cannot just dismantle it by force, because we are not strong enough. I think that what Mazin what Amal is doing is exactly developing in children the critical analysis which can lead to dismantle this enormous power which is oppressing us. I think this is the right way. It's not just like infusing fear or anything. It's just developing from the bottom to the top critical analysis. And this you can do with thousands of small examples and things. Very simple. I mean, it's not simple. It's very difficult. It's very long. But to me, there is no way. And all these activities are part of it.
I mean, well, let's hear from Dominique. You want to comment on this? Dominique, you're still muted.
I'm sorry, but I try to make critical when I was the teacher. I was critical when I was young. My parents tried to learn me to be critical, but it's a thing. It's intellectual and it's slow. But now some people know mentally. They know, they have learned. There are a lot of people who are scientists, who are what I know. But now the reality is such that we have also to act, and if the big wide continents, if I can say, are disappearing, the sea currents are disturbing. It's not climate change, it's a chaos. I'm sorry, but it's like this. I'm geologist, and so I know a little bit. And now they say nuclear is the solution. And so what the problem? The problem is the power. And the problem is a political power. But we can make studies. The problem is political. It's different. The political has to be democratic and is not. And so it's the problem. It's a old problem, but now how to organize, it's another thing. But I think it's we have to take power somewhere, not especially violence, but we have to be stronger. And now I can say this, but it's changed nothing. So how to organize, it's another thing. It's my opinion. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If I may just add a small bit about, I mean, I like reading history, and when I look at history, how do power relations change? How did women get the right to vote? How did civil rights happen in the US? How did we get 40-hour work week, ending slavery, all of these things? They happened because basically evil or bad things or bad power structures are created by humans, and bad power structures are dismantled also by humans. They don't get dismantled by God or Buddha or somebody out there. It has to be by humans, okay? And so humans have a responsibility. And when humans act, they can get what they want. When humans don't act, well, the people doing the bad thing are more than happy to continue doing what they are doing. This is my humble opinion.
Somebody else.
Can I comment on that, Muzzy?
Go ahead. Who didn't speak? I guess Elena and Dominique are back. Elena, go ahead.
No.
It's Peter.
No, I just left it. I didn't.
Okay.
No,
Peter, you want to go ahead?
Listening.
Yeah, I just didn't want to go past this. Somebody said, we can't address the problem with force because we're not strong enough. And from what you just said, Muzzy, there's clearly we can't address by force because force does not address the problem. Force only perpetuates such problems. So I think that you're on the right track, observing that there are millions and millions and millions of people doing good things. And this is going to be invisible, especially if we're looking for trouble. It doesn't make a lot of noise and it doesn't get a lot of coverage and it's not a big emotional stimulant. But the more I get around the world and converse with a lot of people who are activists and scholars, it's clear to me what's emerging is that most of humanity is actually doing very well in terms of our response to the destruction of the planet.
Well, I would take issue with that. I think most humans are part of the flock that just goes with there's a herd mentality. And
Yeah, but I think the
usually
herd
it's-
is changing direction. I really do. I don't know if it will be fast enough,
Yeah,
but
we're like
no,
the
it's hard.
lemmings that are going off the cliff, my friend. There are a few
Well-
lemmings that are screaming, "Stop, stop! Where are you going?"
Yes, that's
And we are the
good.
few lemmings. We need to convert more lemmings.
But I think if we're talking about children and about, you know, how to start at an early age to work on the understanding that together all of the people affected negatively by the consequences of what Dominique calls a power, and I would say maybe greed or, you know, something like this. If we understand that we're not alone, then we can change something. But the culture right now, and I see this mostly with the smartphones, is really separating us. And even we, 14 people now, are stuck in front of the screen talking to each other. Well, I think maybe what we should be doing is going out in the street and talking to real people.
We do that as well.
Pauline, go ahead.
Turn on. There we go. I work at both ends, I think. Constantly small incremental steps are important, very important. But then every now and then I feel the need to hit people over the head. And so I'm active in the Israel-Palestine network of the Presbyterian Church. And we have a process in the denomination from the grassroots up, which is to propose overtures that would then, if they are adopted, become policy. We're sort of famous in some ways, or notorious for pushing divestment from companies that profit by the occupation. It took us 10 years to get it passed, but we persisted and it passed. I'm working on an overture right now that'll probably cause me to go to my not so early grave. I'm 82 and still working. But my overture is called "Stop Using Religion to Justify Colonial Takeover of Israel-Palestine." And then there are 3 parts to it. One is on the general connection to the doctrine of discovery, which we are studying quite a bit these days, based on a papal edict from 1493, I think, that basically said if you're Christian and you take over land, you're justified. God has given you the right to take the land and convert the natives. If they don't convert, get rid of them. And then the second section is on Zionism as a political ideology. The third section is on Christian Zionism as also political ideology. So that's bound to stir up trouble for our network, but that's the way I hit people over the head. Meanwhile, back to the small actions.
Dominique?
Dominique, go ahead.
Peter?
Sorry, I had nothing to say now. I'm sorry, it's because the informative.
No, it's okay.
No problem. Peter?
Oh, thanks. I just thought I would sound another little hopeful note. Professor Pollock at Columbia invited me to attend his synagogue at Yom Kippur, and at which he was the speaker. So I registered and tuned in, and I was really impressed. A lot of people spoke. It was almost like a Quaker meeting. And there was a lot of talk about the occupation of Palestine and how wrong it is. And now this was the West End Synagogue in New York, and people talk like Pauline there. They're really quite aware of what's going on, and they're not having any of it. And that was my first, I guess it was my second experience in a synagogue in my life.
I spoke in several synagogues, and there are some people who are open-minded and understand that this is a human rights issues and not an issue of religion or anything else. So I think there is hope along that front indeed. And you look, even in my last email, I sent an article about the growth of Jewish population in the U.S. growing to be against Zionist apartheid and all of that stuff. So I think that's certainly optimistic. Anybody else? Kurt?
I think maybe there's little time. Is it okay for me to speak again?
Go ahead.
I'd like to get back to Dominique's point about the extremity of action that's required. With all respect to Amal, I think her educational program is strictly environmental, and I'm drawing a distinction between environmental and climate-related things. Her classes and her activities would have been quite appropriate in 1950 or 1960 or 1970. They do not address the emergency of the climate crisis. What we need is, to make a distinction that, recycling is good for the environment. It does not address the carbon content of the air or the immediate need for drastic action to ensure the survival of humanity and the biosphere. Those are really beyond environmentalism. That's maybe we just got to think of it as two different issues. So I don't think that recycling is a climate remedy. Certainly, if everyone had been raised that way with such programs as Amal is using, we wouldn't have the population of Americans consuming and destroying the whole planet on a galactic scale. That kind of education would be necessary 50 years ago, but right now it doesn't do anything about the climate. And so I support not violence, but radical actions. I think we really have to do radical, new, drastic things. As a matter of fact, I'm on a committee in the school board, a committee that I formed actually, and so I'm on that committee, and I've done a good job radicalizing the chairman, who at the second to last meeting asked for drastic proposals from his members. Drastic. He wants drastic proposals. I think that's the kind of thinking we need.
Peter?
Thank you. I agree with Kurt. And the way that we got here was through millions and millions of tiny individual actions over hundreds of years. And if we're going to counteract that flow, we're going to have to learn to be different as humanity. And I think one of the very hopeful things is what happened when the pandemic shoved us all onto Zoom and Meet and so forth, face to face on screens. Because the brain doesn't really care if you're there in the room or just an image on the screen. You get to synchronize your experience with other people. So, and the scale of that is not apparent, but the scale of that is unprecedented and massive. You know, we're in a time when one guy could tweet and 1 billion people would be shoved into their amygdala in a state of biological panic. That's never happened in history. So I'm looking for something unprecedented to happen to humanity in terms of the extension of the limits of community. And I think that is a wave that's going outwards at the speed of light. It's our collective behavior, you see.
Patrick Henderson, who joined us for a little bit, then had to go, just emailed me and says that, you know, I like the discussion, and but I have to go. One lady asked what we can do. A group of us in Bradford on Avon, UK, have been letting our member of parliament know how we feel about Palestinians. We have eventually been able to get her to pass our concerns with some force to foreign ministry officials. The replies, while still not satisfactory, are beginning to acknowledge as having some importance. There seems to be some acknowledgement now that our strong feelings and our arguments are beginning to be understood as being at least sincerely held views, which should not be completely dismissed. That doesn't sound like great progress, but along with the small encouraging signs that others are taking notice, it feels to us less of a brick wall than it was. We have built strong links with Tubas, etc. So the point that Patrick is making is that there's incremental change, which I think is what Peter is also talking about. Now, I also think more revolutionary change, more push is needed. And I like when, you know, members of, you know, this, what is it called, pink, ladies in pink.
Code Pink.
Code Pink. Code Pink does, which is blocking entrances of to military bases or disrupting Congress or doing some more radical things, or what's happened with the pipeline in the US, where the Native Americans with activists blocked the pipelines. I do like more radical actions myself. Every one of us, of course, has to decide how far, how radical, and how much are we willing to pay a price. I have lost 21 now members of friends of mine who were killed in the struggle because they took more radical action than I did. And sometimes I think they are braver than I am. So it's kind of hard to think of where one places themselves in terms of the activism. That's an individual decision. I can't tell you be more radical or don't be more radical. That's an individual decision that you have to take. But the most important thing, I go back to the issue of no matter what you do, you're still better off than 99.9% of the people who do zero, nothing, you know? And so we're talking about modalities of action, which is done by very few people. And if we can increase the number of people taking action, no matter how small ways, we can arrive there much faster. I think we will arrive there, but what we are doing hopefully accelerates it. and saves the planet sooner. Go ahead, Beverly Henkel.
You're muted.
You're muted. You may want to unmute yourself.
Oh, there we go.
Unmute. Now
Okay,
we can hear
I
you.
figured
Go
it
ahead.
out. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, one person's radical is not another person's radical, and what Amal is doing reminded me as she talked about Zatar and teaching the children. That's a cultural Palestinian heritage that needs to be known and passed on. And I was reminded of a teacher in the woman that runs a school for elementary children in the Ida refugee camp. In the fall of 2019, she showed us books that she's written on Palestinian history for children, because it's illegal to have that in the curriculum. But she wanted the children to know their culture and know their history. That to me is radical for that teacher to do that. And what Amal is doing, if she's counterculture, if she's counter the rule of the Israeli occupation and pushing that envelope to teach something of the children of the beauty of their culture, and however she's doing it. The other thing, yesterday I was at a funeral in Omaha. In fact, I met a friend of yours, Mazin, a man that you were in school with, Nassar. He teaches at Creighton University and in Omaha. In a discussion at a luncheon table, what came up was the break in relationships. And I don't probably need to say any more, but we need to hear each other and listen to each other and embrace each other across lines that have been made and have divided us. I live in a rural community in Nebraska where the ditches around our farm are filled with what people don't want to be responsible for. And there's also an attitude that they throw away children. And the goal is to invest in the children that are more valuable, starting from kindergarten. We're all valuable. Every one of us has a gift that needs to be nurtured and identified. So I commend Amal for her attempt at creating a safe and positive experience for the children in the midst of the occupation, which is every day telling her she doesn't have the right to do that. And for me, that's a challenge, because I need to figure out what is my radical in Norfolk, Nebraska? What is my risk? What is the cost to me? And what are the issues here? And I am not someone that can tell Amal or Mazin or anybody in another culture how to get their solutions. The solutions are within them. And my question on that is, you mentioned that Elena funds some things. So maybe what we also need to know is, how do we help? How can we help you? Whether it's economic or coming as volunteers, or if the money it costs to come for us for volunteers, maybe we need to donate it and fund a project that you're doing. What do you need us to do?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the words you said. As I said, I don't think anybody in this earth knows that what they are doing is the best method or the best course of action to achieve the results that we all aspire to. A world that's more peaceful, a world that's more in harmony with nature, etc. We all try, and we all kind of fumble through this life trying to figure it out and trying to do what we can. And I'm learning new things as I go along, and I'm sure all of you are doing the same thing. What's most encouraging to me is to see basically people like Amal, and I can say nice things about her now that she's not here. These young people who start with us, very little background, very little, really seeing the big picture, so to speak. They are focused on smaller things. And then they start to see the big picture, and then they flourish and start to do amazing things like what Amal is doing, or the other staff that I have here, or the other volunteers that I have here, that are working, hard work day and night. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but Amal sounded very tired when she was speaking. That's because she's trying to juggle a job, a new marriage. She just got married, by the way. And doing her master thesis and doing education of children all at the same time. Juggling all of this is not easy under normal circumstances, let alone under the stupid apartheid system that was created for us, that makes it very hard and makes so much negative energy that comes our way. Ilyas Handal, who's a distant relative of hers, but is also employed here. He has land on the other side of the wall. He's lost his land. He occasionally, they allow him every 6 months or something, go visit this land. Can you imagine the pressure that he is under? Because he's seeing these olive trees that are ignored, that cannot be harvested on the other side of the wall. And yet he was working with me all day today, basically, except the 2.5 hours I went to my lecture. We were working on this project for the EQA, Environment Quality Authority, where we're making the National Strategy and Action Plan, and we are writing a proposal. And he's going to come back tomorrow afternoon to continue working with me on this project. But again, he has his own personal circumstances. His mother has cancer. His father has legal problem with the tenant that is trying to displace him. They have this land that's on the other side of the wall that Israel is putting their eye to steal from them, literally. And you can imagine all of these. Plus, he has his own health problems and back and allergies, and you can imagine all these issues. And yet, he's doing another job. He couldn't join us today because he's giving a talk. He's actually doing a course at Bethlehem Bible College on fauna and flora. But Ilyas, when he started with us, he didn't know much about the biology or environment or education, children, or anything else. And now he's a key member of the staff and really key in development. So I see all of this, and I see there's where I draw my hope, is these young people who flourish. Muhammad Abu Sarhan and Muhammad Najajra, who started with us, not knowing much biology or environmental conservation or climate change or any of this stuff. And one of them, Muhammad Najajra, is now museum manager, dealing with a lot of issues. So, this is where I draw my hope. And where I see the young children that are coming here, I see in them, and again, I see in them the future. Now, what can you do? What can you do is, this meeting, first I want to acknowledge that you came here, which shows an interest. And that interest makes us feel less isolated. And when we record it and we share it with our volunteers and staff who couldn't be here, but at least they will watch it, they get encouraged and they get to see a better future and they get to act. And to be honest, it is not the financial issue that's the most limiting here. Yes, we could use more funding, but to me, it's the human factor that's most pressing. We need more volunteers. Zohar here is a volunteer. She is a full-time volunteer. She gets up in the morning at 6:30, starts watering the garden and all of this stuff. And you know, me and my wife, Jessie, are both volunteers. Jessie didn't say anything other than the link on the issue of the plastics. But she can tell you, you know, we're working 16, 17 hours a day, she and me and Zohar. All three of us are full-time volunteers. We need more volunteers. If we have more volunteers, we have more time to think of better strategies to educate children or think about other things. So, or test modules of education on children, or write research, or write books, or do other things. So, you know, we could use more support volunteers, and you can volunteer from where you are. You don't have to be here to volunteer with us. Noga didn't say anything. I'd like to hear from you. I mean, she is doing amazing things in Uganda. Maybe she can tell you a couple of words about what she is doing in Uganda. And I'm sure she faces the same challenges as we face, because she's working with refugees. We're working with refugees here. And maybe we can put our heads together and decide how best to work with refugees.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for invitation. And you hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for inviting me, and I'm happy to know this kind of meeting. Yeah, I've been in Uganda for the last 3 years. I met Mazen there. It was a very interesting meeting that we did together. We gave a talk about conservation and refugees and occupation, and I don't even remember the name, but it was like a boom name. And it was like, so since then I stayed in Uganda, and I started to work with very vulnerable refugees, even in the in the refugees, there's kind of a hierarchy of how much they are suffering. But I work now with really, really hard refugee groups. Some of them are LGBTs, some of them are people with disabilities, people with disabled children, many, many things that make them really unable to survive very well, like basically just dealing with survival issues all the time. I didn't come here to deal with this. I'm doing a lot more social work than I was hoping. I was hoping to do a lot more, like, I'm a radical activist. I was going to talk about wars, who's selling guns to who's doing what to who, and like, why is there so much war in Africa? But I keep finding myself stuck on social issues. They're just dying. Like they're calling me from hospital, they're calling me from jail, they're calling me from, I don't know, they just didn't eat for weeks. And yeah, so that's basically what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm looking for more activism stuff. I will definitely keep doing what I'm doing now, because the social issues are very hard, and for me, these wars in Africa are our fault. It's like Israel is a big seller of arms. The whole West is here, basically. There's like, colonialism never ended, and colonialism is what's doing whatever is happening here. It's a big mess. No one really understands how much mess there is in this continent right now. And so yeah, so I'm stuck on the social, trying to go a bit above it, and try to look at the biggest picture. It's sometimes hard because I'm like getting to the end of the day, kind of dying. But yeah, that's basically presenting myself.
Amazing work that you do.
Thank you.
I think we probably should wrap up. We're supposed to stay till 5:30, but Elena, you wanna close?
You hear me? I just wanted
Yes.
to say I have to leave. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have to leave now.
Yeah, we should all close anyway. So we're 10 minutes or 11 minutes over time.
See you next
So
time.
thank you,
Yeah.
everybody. And we look to
Can I
the...
just say something?
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
just one thing, because I put a link in the chat, and this was to what Kurt was saying about the urgency and maybe the need to separate, you know, what you call environmentalism and the climate crisis. And I want to speak about my, you know, activism with Gaza, because I feel Gaza as a real emergency, but it's an emergency that goes on and on and on and on. And you can go back 70 or 100 years, or I don't know how long. And with such emergencies and with the climate crisis also, I think we need to think about it as a marathon. It's not something that we will change. Even if we need to, we won't be able to change it overnight. And I think industrial agriculture is one of the big factors. And this is why I put that link, because I think when we change the way we treat soil, we could make a radical difference. And it has to do with what we eat. And this is something we all do, even if we're not farmers. And so I think what Amal does is radical in a way, because it treats the root cause of what's happening. That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, everybody, I really appreciate your attendance and look forward to hearing from you in 2 weeks. If you have any ideas for a topic, let us know. For example, we can talk about working with refugees, or we can talk about something else. But send me an email, and we will pick a topic and talk about it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.